Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Keelloo Talk. And this will actually be the 20th episode, which that's pretty cool. I was planning to have this to be the one I mentioned in the last one as the 2020 wrap up, but whatever. Um, this one might be a little bit short, but anyway, as usual, let's get into it. So, there's a few that I've been thinking about today, actually. I'm actually not sure if any of you are familiar with VHS tapes. You know, I don't feel super old talking about these, but it's not something you hear a lot these days. I only ask because um, it was brought up by my family that, hey, let's watch this movie that we only have on a VHS tape. So, in my mind, that means, oh god, we're gonna have to drag out a whole bunch of shit. Like, luckily, we still have a VHS and DVD player, which, okay, so we had to go find some AV cable that was, you know, able to connect to our, modern day HD TV, which, if you've never done this kind of thing, it doesn't look that great on an HD TV, but yeah, that's kind of what happened. So that was kind of interesting. So I'm just kind of wondering what the opinion on VHSs are, because for me, I grew up with them, so I know what they are. But I know as people get older and you know, uh, we grew up with DVDs, Blu-rays, and digital copies, but that just kind of brought back a little bit of memories, because I used to watch those when I was a kid, but it's so awful looking, because when I think of really bad quality, I think like, okay, this video is going to be, sub 480p or regular quality, but when you stick a VHS into the player, it's like you have these static layers, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember this from when I was five, but 5, 6, 7. But it's I don't care how good this Christmas movie is. It's just wow, I can't believe we still do this, and I I don't know. It just brought back some memories because I know I've watched plenty of those in the past few years. Actually, I'm not talking about just way, way, way in the past, but it was a little bit nostalgic. Um, Not that I ever recommend to anybody, hey, go out and buy this VHS, but that just makes me sound even more like a boomer. Oh fuck. Okay. Okay. At this point, I think it's best we move on to a different topic. That might be good. Okay. The second one I wanted to bring up is. Excuse me for 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Hobbies. I've always believed that hobbies are a great importance in someone's life. But I have lately been kind of struggling to, hold, any number of hobbies. You can say, I kind of hesitated there because, you can say pretty much anything is a hobby. Hell, even watching TV can be a hobby, but I mean, something that you can look forward to, coming home to, or, you dedicate your time to outside of work or school or whatever you personally are doing at the moment. But for me, I've always felt like it's a little bit harder. I've always loved collecting, as I covered in my previous video, but aside from that, I've always felt like I've been unsure of what I should do otherwise. I know for some people, not having a hobby is not a big deal. They can come home from work and, watch a series of television they like, and that's great. That's great for them. But for me, I feel like I want something a little bit more than that. I'm not asking for the world, but, I enjoy watching a show that I enjoy for an hour or two, but after that, I just, yeah, I don't know, I know it's harder these days, but, hobbies I feel personally, are an important part of someone's life, and when you don't necessarily have that, it's harder to distinguish, from just relaxing at home to just waiting for whatever the hell is going to happen the next day at work. And that's fine to some extent, like I said, but I don't want it to be my life. I want to have something that, hey, I'm really excited that I can come home and do this. And again, like I said, these days, sometimes your options are limited, but there's always something. And I've just been having a hard time finding that one thing, aside from collecting. But I'm not even sure why I brought this up, because I don't know. But if anyone has, any hobby that I can take up, it'd be cool to mention, not tempting you to, but sometimes I just feel like I'm looking for something, that won't necessarily take a lot of investment, because there are some I can think of that, yeah, buy this and long term, maybe it will be a good fit for you. Like, I used to play guitar, so I thought about, hey, why don't I pick up a guitar, and sometimes that sounds really fun to me, but, guitars aren't always cheap, because I played an electric for years. I'm not just gonna go out and buy an electric guitar, because I don't know. It just got me thinking, it's a weird thing for me. But again, why don't we move on? Kind of a weird one. I'm sorry. So this one, oh, okay. This one's a little more weird, personal, interesting, whatever you want to classify it as. Driving, oh boy. Okay, so I've been driving for quite a long time. Many years is what I will classify it as. I've seen a lot of stuff, I've been through a lot of stuff, and I know what driving is like, and oh man, it is just such a fascinating thing, uh, Alright, let me lay out some examples. So, where I live, there's a lot of back roads, meaning there's a lot of different ways to go to where you want to go without taking roads that tend to be more heavily trafficked, which I think is a great thing, because some of these roads make me want to blow my head off because of how awful the traffic is. So it almost becomes kind of like a puzzle. Like, okay, I'm leaving home. How can I get to this destination without hitting the traffic that I don't want to? And that is really hard because you have to factor in if you hit no lights, you're probably going to be good. In my experience, like if you're on a route that you expect to hit no red lights, you're going to be fine. But for me, I feel like I always hit red lights. So because of that, when I drive into work in the morning, I've had to devise this seemingly weird, not necessarily something everyone would do route, but it works. And that has led me to believe that, hey, why don't we devise some other routes to get home or whatever? And that's kind of what I've done, because I have to initially drive through a bit of traffic. That's just where I live. But if I kept going on that said same road, God, I can't imagine what I'd go through in the morning because I leave fairly early. So I take these somewhat back roads and hit these occasional lights, and I get there amazingly, with time to spare. So it's like, how can I optimize this route? That's kind of what I think from time to time, Not trying to sound weird or anything, but especially when it's later in the evening, especially with traffic this time of year. I mean, I don't like hitting that when I go home. It's horrible. So again, you have to factor in that, and I've spent hours on. Wait, did I just say hours? Sorry, scrap that. I've spent more time than I would have liked to on certain roads that I take normally that for some reason are backed up very, very far. And then once you reach a certain point on that road, it's business as usual. And that is very confusing to me. I don't know if it's just the area I live in now, but I'm not even sure what route to take home sometimes because it's just, what am I supposed to do? Do I have to suck up the traffic or. God. Yeah, driving is weird, Obviously, it's great to be able to, hop in the car and go where you want to, but, once you, go to school, if you drive to school or you go to work or whatever, driving becomes to some extent kind of a pain. And this part seems more like a rant than anything, than actual discussion of driving, but I do want to add in my opinions on GPS. So today I went to the store for my parents. They wanted me to. I was going to go out for some things, and they asked me, "Can you pick up this XXOOX?" They gave me a list, and I don't mind doing that. So I turn my GPS on to whatever this store is, and usually I trust whatever Google Maps tells me to do because it's never steered me the wrong way to a point where I would say, no, don't trust this. But it was just, I got these directions into this local neighborhood a few miles from me. And at first I'm like, okay, because sometimes around here where you drive through neighborhoods, it takes you to a different area where you can get back on, like a main road. But this one, it just took me into a regular neighborhood with nothing to note of. And there was this guy that was pulled over on the side of the road talking to their neighbors, and I'm like, okay, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Do I just drive past them and interrupt their conversation? So I sat there for a good 3 or 4 minutes, and it was one of those situations where I would describe, this is awkward, don't do this, try to avoid this at all possible. And eventually this lady said, she's sitting with me, hey, just pass around this person. And I kind of physically cringed because I'm like, why didn't I do this 5 minutes ago? 3, 4, 5 minutes ago. And oh my god, I don't know. It's just really, really weird. And I eventually got there, but sometimes Google Maps just, I wonder what it thinks, unless you're taking a very similar route home every time you plug your route into the app. I don't really know, because who really does? Okay, I think I'm going to cut it kind of short right now, and that's fine. So, I don't really think this one's that enjoyable, but if you do enjoy it, thank you. And again, as I said, I am planning on doing something regarding wrapping up 2020, my thoughts on that, or whatever, this weekend, next weekend, whatever. So if I do that, please tune in. And this one is more of a last minute ranty thing. So I'm sorry. But if you enjoyed, thank you very much. And I will see you in the next episode of Keelloo Talk. So have a good night, everybody. And sayonara.